Hey everybody, this is James, Strategic Business Manager at Lambert, and you're listening to the Guided Growth Podcast, where we'll be taking you through the basics of growing your activity organisation with real insights and real actions you can apply to your organisation. Today, I'm with Harry from OTB Coaching, a football academy with a difference. We're going to be discussing how important values are in a children's activity organisation and the difference it can make to your growth and your customers' happiness. Harry, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let's kick off by talking about OTB Coaching, how it all started and the journey you've been on so far.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me. So, let's go right back to the start. So, started coaching when I was 12 years old, just helping out at a local football coaching company, and worked with them all the way up through university. So, it funded a little bit of my university whilst I was attending. And then after and during my final year, I decided that it was something I wanted to go into after university. So put all the plans in place to get started as soon as I finished my degree. And then OTB Coaching was born. Back in the day, it was called On the Ball. So we were On the Ball Football Coaching. And it's not until recently that we have rebranded and called ourselves OTB Coaching.
I've got to ask the question that I'm sure everybody's thinking. Why did you rebrand to OTB instead of On the Ball?
It still stands for On the Ball. So OTB still stands for On the Ball, but it also covers the off-the-ball coaching that we also offer. So we are very big on promoting and driving development of our players, both on and off the pitch. And the OTB just fell nicely with on the ball and off the ball coaching.
Nice, cool. And I think that's a really cool piece to include, sort of moving away from, or kind of complementing that core offering that you've got with the football academy, and including that element of mindfulness and well-being in there as well. So talk to me a little bit, just before we kind of dive into values and branding and all of that type of thing. You told us a little bit about the start of OTB and how it all came about. What's the last couple of years been like now that you've sort of been growing, adding on different sites, dealing with more admin, all of that type of thing? How have you found that as kind of a departure from where it all began?
Yeah, so we started the business, and for about, I'd say, maybe 12 years, we were very linear with our growth in the business. We had set up, and basically we had created ourselves a job. So I wasn't really a business owner. I'd created myself a job through the business, and that was how it was running. And it wasn't until recently that I decided I wanted to take it to the next level. Family life came along, a little one. My requirements personally changed as I wasn't able to solely commit to the business 24/7 whenever I was needed. It required more team and growth in the business. So the last 18 months have been a real big shake-up for us. I feel like we are a new business again. It's exciting. All these new changes are happening. Love Admin came on board, as it was such a big part of my role when I wasn't on the pitch, was managing everybody's memberships and payments and subscriptions. And it was a real big difficulty of mine. It was where the majority of my time was going, which I think, enabled me to stop growing the business. It didn't allow me to get through it. And then Love Admin came on board, solved a lot of those problems, freed up a lot of my time. And then, we've been able to drive the business to the next stage in the last 18 months.
It's great to hear, and I think that's a really common thing that the businesses face, is they go through that organic phase where it's all new and you're sort of doing it for the first time, and it's relatively small scale, but a bit of a one-man band. But then how you deal with that next phase, I think, is really, really important. And I know from the discussions we've had already that hopefully now joining the Step to Success program is going to be that additional step to really drive things on further. So tell me about how your values have sort of evolved with that. Have you always clearly defined them, or is that something that's kind of evolved organically over time?
If I'm completely honest, it wasn't really a conversation that we ever had in the first 12 years of the business. We never really had specific laid out values and branding. That wasn't a thing for us. It wasn't until I sat down with a friend called Wes, who has really helped me turn the business around, with his branding advice, and we sat down and got in a workshop together. And from that, all the values that we wanted to incorporate into the business were born then. So the 3 values that we push is energy, care, and detail. They were just apparent throughout the meeting. They just materialized themselves after all the conversations and the hundreds of sticky notes that we had on the wall. These 3 core values and principles of the business were very apparent. And it's something that we've always had within the business. It's just never been down on a piece of paper and set forward that everybody follows suit to.
I know we've discussed previously around the fact that previously you had a set of values for the business and a set of values for your coaches. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So yeah, we had team values, because I was conscious that when we started building out the team values and the coaching values, that there were going to be people inside the business that weren't coaches. So whether they were operations, marketing, design, whatever it would be, I was conscious that our coaching values, when we're on the pitch as football coaches, where we coach with energy, coach with detail, and coach with care, I didn't feel like they married up to their tasks as a non-coach in the business. So we created separate team values for the team that we would do internally. But having conversations with you, and you sort of asked the question, why did we have different ones, in which I couldn't really give an answer. You know, you asked me what they were, and quite embarrassingly, I couldn't even tell you what they were. I had to go back and have a look what the team values were, and they were a little bit wishy-washy, a little bit generic, something that the fact that I couldn't tell you what they were straight offhand just signals the fact that they were a little bit null and void in the business. So as you made that suggestion of carrying our coaching values and not just having them as coaching values, we carried them through as team values as well. So everything within the business is done with energy, care, and detail. And it really just helps with simplicity of recruiting, session planning, onboarding team members, all those different things within the business. Just having those 3 simplified values has really helped in direction for me.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and I know something as you say that we've already sort of worked through a little bit in our previous sessions, but that it is really common to try and overthink your values and worry about its application in different scenarios, where it's really common to have a part of the team that's actually delivering the sessions, doing the activity, that you're kind of specialists as such. And then you've got your administrators, your operators, your managers, who aren't at the coalface of delivering the service that you're providing, but are still an important part of the business. You kind of think, well, they're such different people. They're going to need different things to motivate them and keep them on track. But I think if you've got the right values, then it should transcend all of that. And I think certainly the bits that you came up with that were sort of administration specific, operations specific, have value, and I certainly wouldn't recommend getting rid of them completely, but I would look at what else can they be, because your values should be that unified single thing that is sort of the identity of OTB. And that's really the power of a value, is that everybody should know what they are, whether that's your customer, someone who's looking at your website for the first time, someone who works for you. It should be really apparent what those 2-3 things are. The other bits that sit below that, for me, that's like ways of working. That's another type of framework to make sure that people in specific roles are delivering what you need them to deliver.
So that was basically the conversation that we had after I had that conversation with you. I went back to the team, and actually we decided that they were more behaviors within the business. Our team values is how we want our team to behave, and they weren't actual values that we wanted to push forward. And I think one of the things that changed our mind was the fact that we thought our team values and the coaching values were very internal. It wasn't until having conversations with yourself and the team again that actually we want OTB coaching to come across with energy, care, and detail, because that is how it comes across anyway. it comes across that way. So we want them to be outward facing as well, not just internal things that we discuss in team meetings or when we're session planning, or whether I'm having conversations with new coaches or new team members. I feel as though if we can voice that out to our clients and customers as well, it just solidifies what we do and what we offer.
Yeah, I agree. And I think people often make a distinction between your brand and your values. And brand is very often stereotyped as the kind of physical aspects, your logo, what uniform you wear, all of those quite superficial things. But to me, a powerful brand is one that is your values. The two are kind of two sides of the same coin, really, and your brand is just sort of the bow on the top of what your values are representing. So certainly aligning that and that shift, I think, is a really important one, because in a competitive marketplace, and we did some competitor analysis together the other week, and we saw in Mansfield where your main pitch is, that there are 4 or 5 different operators, all providing varying levels of football coaching with slight nuances, but broadly to a non-discerning customer, it's football coaching. So ensuring that you can stand out within that is really important, and that's where your values come in, because people are going to buy in to the values. When it comes to price, you're broadly going to be in the same ballpark. When it comes to location, there are a finite number of locations. So it is around your values and the people element of the service that you're providing.
We found it difficult to have those conversations where how do we differentiate between everybody else when we are a football coaching company? And you asked me on our first meeting, what makes you different? And I feel like, the fact that we are energetic, we care, and we've got detail in the business, those 3 things combined is our differential. It speaks volumes. And I found it very difficult to explain that to you when you asked me first time. In my head, I was just thinking, you asked me why are we better, and I was just thinking, just because we are. Like, I find it very difficult to tell you why we're better. I just know that we are, and the products and the services that we offer are better. But now it's just more apparent that we have more energy, more care, and more detail within the business. It just helped. I could have explained that. If you asked me the same question now, I'd be able to explain it in a lot more detail and a lot more confidence about why we differ from local coaching companies in and around Mansfield and Nottingham and all of our other venues.
And how important do you think that sort of development in your own kind of thought processes has been when looking to hire new coaches or induct new team members?
It just simplifies the whole process. When I sit down with candidates previously, I struggled to have the conversations about why we're different, why we're better, why you should choose us. It was all very difficult, but now we're in a line with everything, and we've made these decisions, and we have the branding and the values, and everything about the business has come together to streamline everything. It just makes those conversations so much easier and so much more clear for both myself and the people who are coming on board. And it just helps in having those conversations in terms of onboarding, or whether they're a new recruit, or whether they are having a performance review. You just look for those 3 things: energy, care, and detail. And it just makes things and my job so much easier and more fair. It's more fair for everybody, because they know what they need to aspire to. They know what they need to cover. They know they need to cover the energy, the care, and the detail within their sessions or within their jobs, whatever they're doing within the business. If it's got energy, care, and detail, then, we're ticking the boxes that we need to tick.
And it's evident from the way you've answered that question and previous questions that those 3 values are always on the tip of your tongue in relation to any activity that you're doing. And that's certainly advice I would give to any organization looking to really make the most of their values. If it's not something you're thinking about all the time in relation to every decision you make, then they're not your values, because they're not important enough.
Yeah, and we do that with every task. So if we were running one of our camps during the school holidays, we break down every aspect of it. So the welcoming, so when the players are arriving and signing in and getting registered, we ask ourselves, are we providing energy, care, and detail within that task alone? So whether it's just registration, are we doing energy, care, and detail within that task? And then any task within the day or the campaign that we're offering, anything that we do, we just try and include those three things. And then it just aligns the business and our product and our offering. So it's even down to small tasks, team meetings, anything that we do, we try and include those three things. So it's just made it really easy for us to stay on brand.
And do you think that's had an impact on your customers as well? Do you think they've noticed a shift? Have you had any feedback or any evidence that they can see that you're all now fully aligned with everything that you're doing behind those three values?
Yeah, so there was a lot of guesswork before. So before we made all these changes over the last couple of years, like you said, it was a one-man band sort of thing, whether it was our marketing or our messaging, the sessions, it was all a lot of guesswork. There wasn't any alignment. It was just me trying to be the best that we could be. And I wasn't really sure who we were or how to behave or how to act or how to encourage our coaches to, basically it was just like, oh, just do what I'm doing, because internally I had energy, care, and detail without knowing it. And for me to be able to voice that to all of our team members is really easy. Before it was just like, oh, just have a look what I'm doing and try and do a little bit of that yourself. But basically what I was trying to say was get in line with the company values, which we now know are these three things. So yeah, it just makes everything more streamlined and easier. And sorry, yeah, to go back to your question, we get lots of comments from old previous clients who have maybe moved on or they're now too old for our products or they've grown up. We get a lot of comments about how different the business looks, how streamlined it looks. And they don't say the words energy, care, and detail, but they're saying those sorts of things. They're saying, oh, you look like you're taking more care in your marketing, and you look like you're more detailed in your approach to your signups. And everything that we do is now coming across in both internally and externally as well. We are getting a lot of comments from current and previous customers.
That's the sign that it's starting to bear fruit when your customers are aware and cognizant of that change in mindset and that real focus on the key areas. Going back to sort of thinking internally now, you spoke about sort of introducing those values during the recruitment process and during performance management. How have your team found that sort of shift in focus to really dialing in on those three values? Have you had any pushback? Have you had any resistance to it at all?
I feel like it just makes it more fair. It's more fair for everybody because it's so clear. So in our performance reviews for the coaches, there's three headings: energy, care, and detail. And then there's lots of tick boxes underneath there, which incorporate how they can show energy in the session, how they can show care or detail. And it's just very clear and, like I said, fair for them. In terms of pushback, not at all, because it just makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense for us to use those as criteria for our either session planning or our performance reviews. All of our team at the moment are all new team members that got on board after this was put in place. So they don't know any different. So from the moment we did the interview process to now, they're working with us in a full-time contracted position or part-time positions. They all just got on board with it straight away because it was already set within the business.
And how do you, in terms of sort of the ongoing use of it, how do you find that it helps with performance management? Because I know a massive bugbear is getting regular, consistent performance management in place, particularly of coaches, where they might only do 1 or 2 evenings a week. How do you find having a clear set of values to kind of sort of manage against has been useful in building that consistent approach to it?
Well, like you said, the word consistent there is just the be all and end all of it. It's just so consistent. I can either in the session, so if I'm in the session watching them, I can just say more energy, more detail, more care. Though it's just very easy to say they need to add more of that in if it's missing within the session, or afterwards it's very easy to maybe watch back a video review that we took of a coach and say, look, this is where you're showing the detail. I feel like you could have shown a little bit more energy in this moment. As you can see, the session looks a little bit flat, and the energy isn't there. So I just feel like those three things, and I know I keep saying it, but it just makes it more fair, more consistent, and it's just makes the business so much easier it's just one less thing. It makes everything less wishy-washy and lots of less guesswork. It was something we never really had in the first 12 years of the business. We never had these values, and actually it was quite hard to have those conversations with team members without having them come to light, without having those three values to mark them against. It wasn't really fair. I'm asking them to do certain things, and I've not really set the boundaries it's like moving the goalposts all the time. They just don't know where to score, how big the goals are, what they want in those certain moments. And I just feel like we've just laid out, marked the pitch out, marked the goals. Sorry for the football analogy, but they just know where everything is and how clear it is for that to happen.
And what advice would you give to a children's activity provider who has never really focused on it? They've kind of just gone their own way, sort of made up as they go along, done it based on their gut, based on intuition, and haven't really sort of delved into this area of branding and values. What advice would you give if they're looking to kind of start the journey that you're already well down the way on?
I mean, I'd definitely recommend it. It was something that I never thought we needed. We ran the business for 12 years and we were successful. We were always really busy. We were well known in the area. So in the first 12 years without these values, we were actually very busy, but it was quite hard work. There was lots of second guessing and is this the best way to do it? Are we getting the right message out here? There was a lot of guesswork for me and a lot of creativity as well. So I was trying to be constantly creative, trying to come up with new messaging and new branding ideas and different ways to come across to customers. And actually, when we got our branding done in terms of messaging and wording and styles of fonts and everything like that, when we got everything aligned, it just takes all the guesswork out and you've got a sole focus. And whenever you come up with an idea, very quickly, you just look across, does that match up with the team values? Does that match up with our branding? If the answer is yes, run with it, just go with it. If it doesn't, then you need to readjust and reassess. But I definitely recommend, it's one of those things that you don't really understand the power of until you've got it going on. In the first 12 years of the business, I didn't really see the importance. I had a lot on my plate at the time. But if I'd have had this going forward, it would have changed a lot for me going. I'd have felt like I had a business instead of a job. So it's one of those things that you don't really understand and you have to just take people's word for it that they do have great value and it is a great added asset within the business to have branding and values and team ethos and purposes and missions and all that sort of thing. It just makes and takes out the guesswork and you start to feel like a really fully fledged business.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to make because, in the children's activity sector, everybody has not got enough time. The one thing I hear from every single organization that I speak to is, I haven't got enough time to do that, which is completely valid. It's an incredibly busy to work in. But I think certainly finding the time to step away and go, okay, well, why do we actually do what we do? What is it that's most important to us in the service we provide young people will make that easier and you'll get time back further down the road, which certainly I think is what you found as time has wore on, is that you've got that structure and that consistency so that it's not all guesswork. You can still use your gut and still use intuition to make decisions, but you've got that backdrop. I describe it as freedom within a framework. And I think building that framework, especially as you're growing, bringing on new coaches, is going to help keep the real essence of what makes you special on a bigger scale.
Those words you just used then really resonate with me as a person. Freedom within a framework. That is just the way I love to work. As soon as we built this framework, because a lot of, being self-employed and a lot of, like you mentioned, it was a one-man band. So I was doing everything within the business because nobody else could do it. I had created systems and processes that nobody could really get involved in because they were so intricate and detailed, using so many different systems that nobody else could be a part of it, or at least I felt that way. But now having everything in place that we've got now, even in terms of Love Admin and all the values and the branding, it just means other people can come on board and then get on board much quicker and understand everything that I want and need. Whereas they were guessing before. If I asked somebody to plan a session for us in one of our coaching sessions, it would be very broad and a lot of guesswork. But now we've got all these systems in place. It just helps them get on board in a bigger way and helps me delegate tasks. It helps our team take tasks off my plate so I can concentrate on growing the business. All these sorts of things allowed other people to get on board in some of my roles much easier and much quicker.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a massive plus point for a growing business is having that freedom, but also having the framework there to use as a guide for people to work upon. So we've spoken a lot about the positive impacts that implementing these values and really also stripping those values back to the core essentials has been for you, but talk to me briefly about the challenges you faced when you've been looking to implement those clearly defined values. What's not gone so well?
Well, the fact that we didn't know our initial values was a big deal. Having taken the extra time to revisit was probably a good idea, and I wouldn't have done that without the Step to Success, push. We would have just left our team values as they are. And nobody would have known them within the business. They were just unimportant. So I feel like having a little revalue and reevaluate what's going on in terms of the values was great. That was perfect for us. I actually felt, being quite creative myself in terms of everything that we did within the business, I've always had a creative background. The one thing that I would say was initially I found it difficult to be very structured. We only use these colors now. We only use this. This is the messaging that we put across. But actually, that's just building a brand. And it took me a couple of months to get that in my head and get across with, actually, we don't need to be super creative and reinvent the wheel every time we need to put a post out. We don't need to, redesign all of our leaflets all the time with a completely different vibe. Building a brand, it took me a while to understand that actually we are building a brand here and this is how it should be done. I was thinking, that one looks a little bit similar to last time. And, this is the same sort of thing we're putting out again. Is it going to get boring and people are going to start ignoring it? Are we going to become white noise? But actually it just solidifies the business in people's perceptions and starts to build that brand baby. So yeah, I found that peculiar when we first started and got on board with everything.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a difficult process when you're used to kind of working in a very free-form, creative manner, and obviously that there is always the risk of content becoming stale if it's not refreshed. But I think again it goes back to this kind of catchphrase almost of freedom within a framework. Your brand should be your framework of, this is the logo, these are the colors that we use. But within that, you've got the freedom to then craft content, marketing stuff to suit the occasion, to suit the event, to suit the class, to suit the time of year, that can be different and can engage people and can grab people in. So really the values just act as that guiding kind of quarterback type role. You've still got the variety of plays you can make to score the touchdown. Moving away to a different type of football analogy for you.
Oh, how dare you. The wrong type.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing to look at, and I think as well what you were saying around revisiting it and not just settling on the first time you do it as being terminal, being final, that it is what it is. I think it's always useful to revisit those things. So by all means, go for it. Put some values together that are important to you. Get them out there, see how they work. But if they don't work, don't give up on it. Don't just think, oh, well, sod it, we'll just go back to what we've always done and just make it up as we go along. But revisit it. Look how you can tweak it. Look how you can refine it. And and change it and sort of make small little adjustments, and you will eventually unlock, I think, the way that works best for you. But you certainly won't get that the first time of asking.
No, definitely. I feel like the revisit was great, and you can be a bit stubborn sometimes and think, well, actually, we sat down in a team meeting, we spent all day thinking about this. This is something that we've got down on paper now. It's on our learning scripts. It's all, within our contracts, within the teams, and you feel like it's within the business now, and you can't change it. But actually, it just made so much sense to simplify everything, and the revisit was great in terms of being less stubborn about what we do. And I felt like, oh no, but we've when you mentioned it, it was something I hadn't thought of, and I thought, oh no, we did spend time doing these team values, and I've spoke about all the team about it, so it was a bit of not a bitter pill to swallow, but it was just something that needed to be done. I said, look, it makes so much sense to do this, so why are we being stubborn about it? Let's just get it changed and rebuild what on the bit. It's a bit like an extension, isn't it? You're not rebuilding, you just sort of add in an extension, which makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the word you used there is critical, which is stubbornness. And I think quite often you can stick with ideas that are not quite working because of the effort you put in to come up with them. But I think taking that step back and being objective with it is really, really key in going, yeah, I did put a load of effort into this. I did believe it was the right thing at the time. Actually, there might be a better way of doing this. So, and removing that stubbornness from the equation, I think certainly has helped in the discussions that we've had, but also on a wider scale is a really, really useful thing to kind of get past as well, which is really difficult, particularly when it's your baby, because you're so emotionally and personally attached to it. And actually, you should never look to remove that. Quite a lot of people will say that as a business grows, you need to remove the emotion and remove the feeling that it's your baby. I personally don't believe you should. I think you should always have that. I think you should just evolve with it. And if you can remove stubbornness and have a little bit of a objectivity when you need to, you can still keep that passion and still keep that emotion. Because at the end of the day, that's why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, to go back on one of your previous questions about stubbornness and difficulties, having all this in place, like I mentioned, gives all the other team members the ability to get involved in the business more, because there are, like you said, that framework in place, which was hard for me at the time because, having done it all previously and, having a standard and a level which we like things done. One of the things I did find difficult was actually offloading these tasks, but eventually understanding that actually we've got the right framework in place to pass these tasks on now, and they can succeed in doing them just as the same way that I would have done was a bit difficult for somebody that came from a one-man band where I literally did everything within the business. It's nice now looking back thinking, wow, I can just pass these tasks on. We've got all this framework in place which allows them to get the tasks done. So, it's nice looking back knowing that we've got this in place. But initially it was a bit like, but in hindsight, it's great.
Yeah, and I think what you've described there is really key to always bear in mind, is that it's not a kind of a light switch thing. You're not going to come in one day and just change it all and suddenly delegate everything and have really clear values and take the approach that you've just described. But it's going to be something that evolves over time, and changing mindsets, particularly when you've been doing things a certain way for a long period of time, takes time itself. And it should take time. It's right that it takes time, and it's right that it evolves over time, because then that makes sure that you get it right. So yeah, I think the way in which that's kind of materialized for you guys feels from an outsider's perspective, feels like it's been right, feels like it's been organic and kind of natural in the sort of life cycle of OTB.
It feels great. Whenever people ask me, how's business going? How are you feeling? It's all positive. It's all, now we've got this framework in place. It allows me to enjoy the business more and accept the growth and the changes and everything. So whenever people ask me how the business is going, how's your plans, it's always positive. And previously to all the changes that we've been made, I might have felt like a bit of a stuck in a rut situation. But, now if people ask me the question, I just feel great about what we're doing and where we're going.
And I think that ultimately is the most important thing. If you can feel like that running your business, and the kids are leaving sessions happy and coaches are happy, really that is the key. That's the holy grail that you're getting to. So that's kind of a perfect place to finish up on, really. So thank you very much, Harry, for your time. It's been great having you. Been a really great discussion that we've had.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to hear more guided growth tips each month, subscribe to our Step to Success podcast. You'll also get the marketing advice from Abby every month as well. Or have a look on the Step to Success section of the Love Admin website for more information about how you can get involved, have more of these workshops yourself, and sign up to the training program as Harry's done. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time.